We're almost a third of the way through the NBA season now. And this feels like the perfect checkpoint to sit back, look at the league as a whole, and really figure out who have been the 10 best teams in the NBA so far. And just so we're completely on the same page before we get into this, the criteria that I'm using is simple. We're judging teams in a vacuum. Nothing from last season matters. It's purely about how good they have been this season with what they've shown us on the floor right now. So, coming in at number 10, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. And honestly, this spot was tougher than it looks. I almost went with the Suns after that ridiculous comeback over Minnesota. But when you zoom out and look at talent depth and where each team is trending, the Timberwolves still deserve the edge. Anthony Edwards alone makes it really difficult to leave them off the list. He's taken another step forward as a ball handler, way more control, way more burst and speed without losing momentum, and his scoring uptick reflects that. He's averaging 25 points per game on 59% true shooting for the season. But over the last 7 games in particular, he's gone nuclear, putting up 34.4 points, shooting 49% from 3 and sitting at 69% true shooting. That is unreal production. The frustrating part is that Minnesota have once again stumbled their way through the early part of a season. But when you look at the underlying metrics, things actually look pretty solid. They have the 7th best net rating in basketball at a plus 6.1, the 7th best offensive rating at 120 points per 100 possessions, and the 10th best defense, holding opponents to just 114 points per 100. The issue isn't performance, it's resume. They have not beaten anybody good. Their best win of the season probably was over the Celtics. And I mean, that's a Boston team that's not going to have Jason Tatum for pretty much the entire year. Not exactly a statement win. Still, I'm going to be giving them the benefit of the doubt because this is almost identical to how they opened the season just a year ago. They were in positions to win games, kept choking late, everyone bailed on this team, and then they quietly corrected everything in the latter half of the regular season and made a run to the Western Conference Finals. This team feels like it could be on the same path. The talent is too good. Edwards is explosive. Guys like Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels, and Naz Reid give them a really strong foundation. And the numbers are just way too strong for me to not have them in the top 10. So for now, they land at number 10. In at number 9, I've got the Orlando Magic, a team that pretty much everybody wrote off after they started the season with a 1-4 record. The offense looked rough, even the defense looked disjointed, and Paolo Banchero was playing some of the worst basketball of his career. It genuinely looked like they were headed for disappointment. But once Paolo went down with injury, something clicked. Orlando suddenly found an identity once again, ripping off a run that took them from 1-4 to 14-9, with real wins against New York, Philadelphia, Denver, and Miami. Franz Wagner and Desmond Bane have begun to look like themselves again, and Anthony Black has been one of the quiet revelations of the season. Anytime he's in the game, Orlando just functions better offensively. But in their recent game against New York, they received a gut punch as Franz Wagner went down with a leg injury that didn't look very promising. It looked pretty bad live. And at the time of recording this, we still don't know whether it was just a bone bruise or something far more serious. In the short term, that's going to be hanging over this team in a big way. But there's also been a weird conversation floating around the Magic that they would get worse with Paolo Banchero back. And yeah, his first couple games back have been pretty slow. But long term, they simply cannot reach their potential without him. If he can cut out the long contested mid-range jumpers, those possession-killing shots, and leans into more paint touches, where he can draw fouls and collapse a defense, that is going to be exactly what Orlando needs from him. His playmaking is also still super underrated as he can legitimately run the point when needed. Combine all of that with the fact that they have the 7th best defense in the NBA, holding opponents to 113.2 points per 100 possessions. And Orlando becomes a legitimately tough team when they're all healthy. They have earned this number 9 spot. And if they can get Franz Wagner back and that injury hopefully isn't too serious, then they might continue to rise. At number 8, I've got the Boston Celtics. And honestly, nobody expected them to look this good this season. Yet, here we are with the 6th best net rating in the NBA at 6.1 and the 4th best offense at 122.3 points per 100 possessions. All without being fully healthy. The biggest reason why is, of course, Jalen Brown. He's been playing like a real first option over the last 9 games, averaging 32 points, 7.7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1.8 steals per game on 57% true shooting. That is superstar production, and it's completely changed the ceiling. Early on, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard were both nothing short of terrible, but they've bounced back in a massive way, and that alone has made their offense feel a lot more reliable. But the defense is still a problem area. They rank 17th in the league for defense, giving up 116.2 points per 100 possessions. And the splits with Kristaps Porzingis in the game are borderline shocking. With Porzingis on the floor, Boston's defensive rating is at a 108.3, which is elite. But when he's off, that jumps up to a 122.8 defensive rating, a massive 14.5 point swing. And while Porzingis has been good, that number says a lot more about the rest of the big man rotation than anything else. Boston's big man rotation has been Luke Cornett, Xavier Tillman, and the rookie Amari Williams. I mean, that is about as thin as you'll see from any team in basketball. That's the clear area holding Boston back. If they can make a trade for even one competent big, everything could change about the team, especially with the possibility of Jason Tatum returning this season. Given the expectations, the injuries, and how rough parts of their rotation have looked, this Celtics team being strong offensively is a massive accomplishment. In my estimation, they're absolutely a top 10 team right now. And with a move and the return of JT, they could shoot even higher. Now in at number 7, I've got the San Antonio Spurs. And the start of the season with Wemby was everything the hype promised. With Victor Wembanyama on the floor early, the Spurs looked faster, bigger, smarter, and like a team that's taken a massive step forward. But then he went down with the calf injury, and you'd assume that the whole thing would collapse without him. Instead, they've gone 7-3, and most of that run came without Stephon Castle as well. That alone shows you how different this group is compared to a season ago. They finally have real, trusted rotational pieces alongside of the young core. De'Aaron Fox has been massive in Victor's absence, basically returning to all-star production. He's averaging 26.8 points, 6.8 assists, and 1.5 steals on 62% true shooting over the last 10 games. Exactly the kind of stabilizing force the team needed in Wemby's absence. However, once Wemby is back, which he should be pretty soon, the question becomes how quickly can they reconnect the group together? If Fox and Wemby hit all-star levels at the same time, San Antonio will jump even higher than 7, because defensively, this team looks imposing, especially when Victor is anchoring the floor. And for the first time in years, the offense is actually holding up as well. Yes, they do have stretches where things can bog down a bit, but they finally have enough shot creation and structure to do a pretty fine job at consistently putting points on the board. The most exciting part about this team is just how far ahead of schedule they appear to be. This is the version of the Spurs people thought we'd see in 2 to 3 years. Not right now. And with Wemby returning very soon, I'm afraid that they're only just getting started. Now, coming in at number 6, I have the LA Lakers. And this has been the most entertaining version of the Lakers we've seen in years. Luka Dončić is playing with a level of fire that feels like a full-blown revenge tour, averaging 35.3 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 8.9 assists on 63% true shooting. Absolutely dominant and definitely in the running for MVP. Austin Reaves has taken a massive leap right alongside of him, putting up 29.3 points and 6.8 assists on 69% true shooting, which is absolutely unbelievable production. And add LeBron James back into the mix as well, and you've got a trio that looks like one of the best big threes in the game. They're also the 2 seed out in the West and have the 6th best offense in the league. The concern, of course, is the defense. They're 21st in the NBA for defensive rating, allowing 117.7 points per 100 possessions. And that's exactly what everybody worried about coming into the season. They just don't have the correct defensive personnel. Yes, they're able to lock in and give you a solid defensive stretch here and there. But over time, the limitations do surface, and that isn't going to change unless they make a move. Still, their offense is so elite that they've been able to overcome a lot of those weaknesses, especially late into games. They're still undefeated in clutch time with a 7-0 record, because basically any lineup that features Luka, Austin, and LeBron all at the same time is pretty much impossible to defend, because if you try and send extra help at Luka, Austin and LeBron are too good to be left with an advantage. Cleaning the glass actually has them first in win differential at plus 3.5, meaning they've won 3.5 more games than their net rating suggests. That's a sign of both elite late game execution and a little bit of good fortune as well. The big question for the Lakers is whether they can keep up this clutch magic all season long, and whether or not they'll be able to pick up a defensive upgrade. But based on what we've seen so far, they're absolutely a top 6 team with plenty of room to grow. Now, coming in at number 5, I have the New York Knicks. And they've hit a level on offense that we haven't seen in years from this team. After a rough start, the Mike Brown system has completely reshaped how they play. Instead of everything going through Jalen Brunson pounding the air out of the basketball, the offense now flows with movement, pace, and everybody getting involved. That shift has taken them all the way to the 2nd best offensive rating in the league, putting up 124.3 points per 100, which is a monumental turnaround. Karl Anthony Towns was definitely rough to start the year, but he has finally found some rhythm. Over the last 4 games, he's been averaging 26 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 3.3 assists on 67% true shooting. Exactly the high-efficiency scoring punch that they need from him. Jalen Brunson has been the same killer that he always is, putting up 27.9 points and 6.3 assists on 59% true shooting. And then when you look at Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, New York becomes one of the hardest teams to deal with, because you're going to put your 2 best defenders on Brunson and KAT, but pretty much no team in the league has enough left to effectively slow down Mikal and OG as well, especially when they've got it going. There's pretty much no team in the league that can cover all of that. Defensively, they're trending in the right direction too, climbing up to 14th with a defensive rating of 115. Still, given how dramatically the offense has improved and how well the roster fits together, the Knicks absolutely deserve to be a top 5 team right now, and they're one defensive move away from becoming even scarier. Now, coming in at number 4, I've got the Detroit Pistons, who have been the breakout team of the season. Currently sitting at 19-5 while holding down the number 1 seed out in the Eastern Conference, they've jumped into contender territory far faster than anybody could have anticipated. Cade Cunningham is the driving force behind all of this. At 6'6" and 220 pounds, he can get to any spot he wants. And his production has reached MVP levels: 27.5 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 9.3 assists per game, on 56% true shooting with an incredibly high 42% usage rate, which sits in the 98th percentile among all guards. His impact on their offense is undeniable. When Cade is in the game, their offensive rating jumps from a 113.9 all the way up to a 120.8. That's a 7-point swing. That's part of why the Pistons have the 8th best offense in the NBA, putting up 118.2 points per 100 possessions, something nobody expected coming into the year. Pair that with the 3rd best defense, holding opponents to 111.2 points per 100. And suddenly Detroit looks like one of the most balanced systems in the league. Their defenders have been a massive part of that identity. Ozar Thompson is already one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, averaging 8.2 deflections per 100 possessions, firmly in the 99th percentile. In the paint, they've got Jalen Durant and Isaiah Stewart, who form one of the most physically imposing front courts in basketball. Durant has reached all-star production offensively, with 18.8 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, doing it all on 70% true shooting. And on the other side of the floor, he's still anchoring the defense, averaging 1 block per game, while also being a force on both the defensive and offensive glass. Isaiah Stewart continues to be a dominant interior defender, holding opponents to 18% below their average rim percentage, which is in the 93rd percentile, making him one of the very best rim protectors in the game. Last year, the defense started to come together late in the season. This year, the offense has finally caught up, and that combination is what makes them a legitimate contender. And because of all of that, they absolutely deserve to be here at number 4. Now, coming in at number 3, I've got the Denver Nuggets. Still one of the best teams in the league, even if they haven't hit the level that I anticipated. Offensively, they've been on a completely different tier. Their 126.1 offensive rating is the best in basketball, and when they're flowing through Jokić, it just feels effortless. The issue though is defensively, which sits at 18th in the league, giving up 117.4 points per 100 possessions. Aaron Gordon's injury has been a big part of that decline, but the slide had begun even before he went down. AG's on-off numbers though cannot be ignored because they show us just how important he is. With Gordon in the game, Denver has a defensive rating of 106.6. That's elite. But without him, that balloons out to a 120.6 defensive rating, a massive 14.1 point difference. That gap makes it almost impossible to judge their defense fairly when he's not playing. Nikola Jokić, meanwhile, has snatched the MVP race right back. He's averaging 29.2 points per game along with 12.4 rebounds, a league-leading 11 assists, and 1.4 steals per game, all on 72% true shooting. Those numbers just don't even feel human at this point. And when you combine that with how good Jamal Murray has been, clearly the best regular season of his career, posting 24.6 points, 4.6 rebounds, 6.9 assists on 46% shooting from 3, and 63% true shooting. Their offense is absolutely ridiculous. Denver's scoring explosions this season have been historic. After Jamal Murray's 52-point outing in Indiana, the Nuggets became the first team in NBA history to have 3 players drop 50 points on 75% shooting, all in the same season. Aaron Gordon did it, Jokić and Murray. And the only players in NBA history to have scored 50-plus points with 10-plus threes on 90% shooting was Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon this season. I mean, they have been on an absolute tear. Then with the smart depth pieces like Cam Johnson, Christian Braun, Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway Jr., and you can just continue to go on. This team looks like a powerhouse. Even with the early defensive issues, they are still absolutely deserving of a number 3 spot. Now, coming in at number 2, I have the Houston Rockets. And the leap that they've made this season is unreal. They're 3rd in the league for offensive rating, putting up 123.1 points per 100 possessions. And they pair that with the 2nd best defensive rating, holding opponents to just 110.8 points per 100, making them the only team in the league to be top 3 on both sides of the floor. Usually, you only see those kinds of levels from true title contenders, and that's what I believe the Rockets are. Last season, their defense was already fantastic, but they could not reliably score in the half court. The addition of Kevin Durant, plus the steps forward from Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün, have completely fixed that. And what's wild is that both Şengün and Amen have a higher usage rate than KD. Şengün has the ball in his hands for 23.3% of his minutes, which is in the 99th percentile for his position. Then with Amen Thompson, he's at 32%, which is in the 97th percentile for his position. Then you've got Kevin Durant, who's down at just 22.6%, which is in the 87th percentile for his position. Kevin Durant is not carrying the offense like a lot of people expected. Instead, he's in a system that doesn't require him to dominate every night or constantly bail them out with tough half-court looks. Instead, they've got somewhat of an effective system. This improvement in the half-court offense is absolutely huge. They've jumped from 22nd a season ago at a half-court offensive rating of 93.2 points per 100 possessions to now 11th this season, scoring 98.9 points in the half-court per 100. That's a leap that turns a pesky defensive team into a legit title contender. Now they are having to run point guard by committee without Fred VanVleet. And while turnovers do pop up as a real issue at times, their overwhelming physicality, especially on the offensive glass, definitely helps to cover up those gaps. I expected Houston's defense to remain elite even with Durant joining. But what I didn't expect is for how good offensively they've become. That's what makes them the clear second best team in the NBA right now. But at number 1, I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder, and at this point, it's impossible to deny them of the top spot. I mean, they are 22-1 with the best defense in basketball, holding teams to just 104.5 points per 100 possessions. And they pair that dominance with the 5th best offense in the league, putting up 121.8 points per 100. That balance is what makes them straight up terrifying, because they're elite on both sides of the floor. What really separates this team is the way they defend. They have the best athletes in the game. They're fast, physical, and they completely overwhelm you. If you make any mistake, even a small one, they're gone in transition. And once they are out and running, you're basically just praying that they miss a layup, because more often than not, they are putting the ball in the basket. And then you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who somehow continues to add layers to his game. Now he's hitting off the dribble threes and playmaking at an incredibly high level. And that jump that he's made as a playmaker completely changes the way defenses have to prepare. You can't go under screens anymore. You can't trap him the same way. And if you do send that help, he's finding the open man pretty much immediately. But the wildest part is how they pretty much did all of this without Jalen Williams, who missed the first 19 games of the season. And now that he's back, the Thunder suddenly have a legitimate big three with J-Dub, SGA, and Chet Holmgren, who's turned into an all-NBA caliber big man. And then when you look at all of the depth behind that, the Thunder have the best playoff rotation in the league. And it isn't even close. The defense is one of the best we've ever seen, and the offense finally looks like it's going to be sustainable in the playoffs. And the reason why that's so scary is because they won the championship last season with an offense that would often struggle, and that's because of how otherworldly their defense is. And if you think the Thunder are scary, you need to see what's going on in Orlando. Paolo Banchero is back. The Magic have found an identity, and the entire Eastern Conference definitely has a problem on their hands with this team. And if you want to see the full Orlando Magic breakdown, then you can check out that video right now.